We are here this morning with Jack Campbell, the Republican candidate for Sangamon County Sheriff. We appreciate you meeting with us today and invite you to start by providing an opening statement about why you're running for this office and why you're the best candidate for the job.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you to the SJR and the editorial board for having me here today to answer your questions and to talk about myself a little bit. I'm a lifelong resident of Sangamon County. I'm married to my wife, Lori, for 33 years. We have two daughters who are both school teachers in our home district, and we have two grandchildren. I started at the Sheriff's Office in 1992 as an auxiliary deputy, and throughout my career I worked my way up to the rank of undersheriff, where for 7 years I was the number 2 in charge, where I oversaw all day-to-day operations of the Sheriff's Office. I negotiated contracts, I handled discipline, oversaw the budget, and I acted as the Sheriff's proxy on boards and committees. So I literally learned the Sheriff's Office from the ground up. There's very little that I haven't experienced, whether it's civil litigation and labor arbitrations, things like that, that certainly are a requirement of the job. So I feel that given that experience, given my commitment to the community, my lifelong commitment, my family's commitment, my passion for law enforcement, my passion for public service, and my intent to improve in all facets of the Sheriff's Office in accountability and modernization and collaboration will make me the best candidate for Sangamon County Sheriff.
Okay.
Good. So before we jump into all of the issues, you've been a Republican, so how'd you come to that in the first place? And then what are a couple of principles that you think generally guide Republicans, and how would that be played out as sheriff?
Okay, well, it's funny that in my family growing up, my father's side were all Democrats and my mother's side were all Republicans. We never discussed politics once in my life. Can I remember ever a political conversation in my house? There was no arguing about it. It's something I gravitated towards, and I have no explanation as to why I became a conservative. But I believe that Republicans are a lot of this has to do with fiscal responsibility. I really think that personal accountability comes into play here. Certainly something I believe in. As the undersheriff, when I was overseeing the budget, one of the things that was constantly reminded to me from the Finance Committee and our county auditor was to live within our means. And I think that's another mantra of the Republican Party, is not to depend on more taxes given to our agency. It's a budget that I negotiate, and then I try to live within it.
Okay.
We'd like to talk to you about priorities. In your opening statement, you said you would look to take the Sheriff's Office, make sure it's being held accountable, and that it's modernized. Talk to us a little bit about those ideas there.
Well, a few things that I come up with that I've been thinking about over the last 3.5 years or so is certainly improving our media presence. It's something that I was basically the public information officer for Sheriff Williamson. I became very accustomed and comfortable with dealing with the media. So I think when we talk about accountability, it's a constant pipeline of communication with the media in every form. In addition, we're going to use social media for more accountability. And I think that having instant feedback from the public, even when it's not kind, is something nice for us to look at, to have our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the community. Another idea I have is online reporting. And this is something I've talked to our current state's attorney, John Milheiser, about. And he was in favor of this, where we make it more convenient for citizens to be able to file their reports online when it comes to some misdemeanor crimes that certainly don't have a suspect involved. And it will make it easier for them. It reduces our deputies' traveling time and really makes us more efficient as an agency. And again, it really conveniences the public when they can do it at their own convenience rather than wait for our deputy to arrive, which could be a few hours away depending on how busy we are. And something else I'm looking at is digital traffic tickets. I know it's already been discussed. It has not yet been implemented at the Sheriff's Office, so it's something I will work with the county board and the correct departments to implement our digital ticket writing, again, to make our time on traffic stops more efficient, reduce errors, handwriting errors, and tickets could get lost, things like that when they're hand drawn. So we will be looking at that aspect also. So across all facets, we're going to look to improve in accountability and modernization.
Real quick, just with the online reporting, you said it'd be mainly for misdemeanors. Can you give a couple examples? I'm not sure a lot of people know what.
Sure, let's say a theft of a bicycle out of a yard. Okay. You wake up one morning and the bicycle's not there anymore. You don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared. you have no suspects. It's something that you're basically doing this for documentation, possibly for insurance purposes on occasion. And we will definitely follow up. It won't be just you fill out the report and send it in, that's the end of it. We will be following up with you probably to get more information, to see if maybe there's something you didn't think about. Our detectives or a deputy will call and follow up in that manner.
Okay.
And with the digital traffic tickets, walk us through a bit how that works. Is that like with a handheld computer?
It's
or?
a handheld. It actually can take almost any platform
Right.
to do this, but there would be a scanner involved where you scan the back of a driver's license, and things like that actually take a few minutes. You think about, we have to take everything off your driver's license and handwrite it onto a traffic citation. Now you'll be able to scan it, and it immediately populates the digital ticket, and then it would be sent immediately to the circuit clerk's office for their processing also. So it's a matter of working out some of the logistics, but understanding the technology is there and already being utilized, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we were going to explore that option also.
What ballpark of investment would that be, in terms of?
That is something I don't have the exact figures for. I know I've talked to our Paul Palazzolo, is our circuit clerk, and he's already aware of it, and I believe that they actually will provide those for us. Not a lot of them, but certainly enough to get to our main ticket writers that we will identify later on.
Okay.
Are there any other technological efficiencies the office could benefit from, or are those kind of the main ones you're thinking of?
Well, I think that other programs that are out there, we will be looking for any option, any programs available to help out the efficiency of the sheriff's office, and also it will add to the safety for our employees and the citizens alike. So we're going to utilize just anything that's out there, and I've been out of the sheriff's office now for 3.5 years, so it's something I need to explore again to see what is trending out there in law enforcement and see what's working, what's not working. And if I could, it would lead right into my relationships with other law enforcement agencies. Twice I served as the president of the Sangamon County Law Enforcement Executives, where I developed many local, state, and federal relationships. In addition, I was the third vice president up through the presidency of the FBI National Academy Associates, where I'm an FBI Academy graduate, where I developed more of these relationships. And I can literally pick up a phone and call these other agencies to find out what they're working on, how some of these advances have worked in their agencies, and they will be able to give me the pluses and minuses of adopting some of these.
We recently, the longest serving county jail inmate ever in Sangamon County was finally sentenced. He spent, I think, more than 6 years in the county jail. What types of reforms would you like to see done, either at the county, the state, the federal level, to ensure that inmates aren't spending that long in jail?
Well, sometimes it's out of our control. Sometimes the defense attorneys continue and delay the trials. One of the things I remember dealing with as the undersheriff is people with disabilities. We worked with the Criminal Justice Committee to get them out of our custody. They become very costly to taxpayers when we have to take them for doctor's visits, and it's a liability issue that hangs over our head all the time. So working with the courts, working with the state attorney's office to try to get some of these people out of our custody as quick as possible, whether it's a home monitoring, whether it's simply a high bond, something to get them out of the custody is important. When you're in there for homicide, it's not an option. They have to be in custody because they're a threat to our society and our public safety. So those people have to be the exception. If we can try to work somehow with our state attorney's office for them to encourage a faster trial, we certainly will discuss that. But other than that, it's out of our hands. It's up to the defense attorney for them to finally allow that to go to trial.
Some jurisdictions have really moved towards reducing or eliminating bond for offenses. How do you think about that? Well,
currently in Sangamon County, crimes are labeled as B crimes, like a crime against property, like theft. When the judge sets the bond begins reducing by $30 a day. So that's something that has decreased our daily head count in the jail, and it's worked very efficiently. I've kept in contact with our employees over the last couple of years, and certainly when I see new laws like that come into play, I reach out and ask them how it's going, because I cared. And now I certainly have a more of a vested interest in how this is working out. So knowing that this is already in play, this bond reduction, it's helping to, again, get these people out of our custody faster. They certainly still have to come back to court, but if somebody is given a $300 bond and it's reduced by $30 a day, then in 10 days they're out of our custody, other than they have to come back to answer for their court case, where they could be sentenced to more time. But it's something that I think has worked very well, very efficient, and allowed us some more space in the jail.
So what's the head count, for lack of a better word, of patrol versus jail, or in addition, what's the total head count?
Well, total, the sheriff's office has about 180 employees total. We have 63 sworn deputies on the road. There's roughly 100 or so that work in the jail. We've got about 20 civilians and other odds and ends employees. Our court security is made up of about 12 to 14 people. Okay. So when you add them all up, that's how many total employees we have. At any given time, patrolling the county, you'll have from 5 to 8 probably, if nobody's on vacation and nobody's hurt. So we have 875 square miles, and so that spreads our manpower a long ways out. So we rely on other agencies to back us up. We back them up, and that's again comes into play with my relationships with these other agencies that I've already established them. That we work very well together and we depend on each other.
So 5 to 8 officers on duty out
patrolling
somewhere in the county. Right.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're talking about the jail. Are there any needs you see that need to be addressed in the jail, whether it's the infrastructure, staffing, resources that it gets? What would you like to see there?
Again, I've been out of play for 3.5 years, but I would certainly sit down with the staff the minute I take over and ask them what are their concerns. I have not heard of anything negatively impacting the operations down there. When you talk about infrastructure, I think the jail opened in 1991, if I remember right, and so certainly there are probably building needs, but that's a separate committee too. The sheriff is not in charge of that type of infrastructure, but we would work very closely with our building and grounds committee to upgrade where necessary. I was part of upgrading our camera system when I was the undersheriff, and we added cameras where previously there was no cameras. That were kind of blind spots for us, and we wanted to reduce any possibility of something happening in those blind spots and us not having video of it. So it's an ongoing evolution of technology, maybe even upgrading the cameras so you can see things better. I remember reviewing surveillance video, and it was just grainy, and that's one of the things I would do is just upgrade what's currently there with higher quality cameras if there was money available for that.
Are there any additional criminal justice reforms you'd like to see the state legislature take up that could benefit the county sheriff's department?
Well, that's a pretty wide open question.
It is. Gives you some variety or some directions to
go. I think that our system works very well. Nothing's ever perfect, and I think that me holding people accountable will improve the things we need to improve upon. I will demand professionalism from our employees, and I will demand it because when it comes time to defend them in civil litigation, I know I will be rightfully doing so. So as far as any legislation, I have great relationships now with our local legislators, and I'm anxious to get in and see what's happening and see where we need to ask for changes, where we need to make changes, and then ask them maybe to if they look at some language that we would propose.
There's one.
For the past couple of years, you've been working with the medical marijuana industry in the state. There are efforts out there now to legalize recreational marijuana. Can you talk a bit about your stance on that and how you've come to it?
Sure. I was recruited to go to the Department of Agriculture because of my law enforcement administrative background, and the then director wanted somebody that would hold this industry to a standard. And he said, I'm specifically recruiting you because I think you're the guy. And I took the job, and kind of reluctantly, I was not a fan of medical cannabis, to be quite honest. But what I realized was the state of Illinois had done a superb job in writing the rules. And we are the standard bearer for the country when it comes to a medical cannabis program. So I've been doing that now for since June of 15. I actually went under a contract with the state and went full-time in January of 16. So I'm very happy to report that program is going well. There's been no major incidents, and I think it's because of our heavy regulation. When it comes to recreational cannabis, right now there is not a field test to tell me if you are impaired driving down the road, and your families and my family is on the road, and until such time that they come up with a test that's admissible in court that tells me how much THC is in your system, which is a psychoactive ingredient in cannabis, I will not be comfortable with a recreational program.
Nationwide, in the last couple of years, the relationship between police officers and the public is at times fraught with tension. So how would you work as sheriff to strengthen the relationship between the sheriff's department and the general public? I
have to be available to the public. I will answer to them in an election every 4 years. In addition, I will be available to them by being out in their communities. And one of my plans is we hold a chiefs meeting here in Sangamon County every other month, and it's normally held at the sheriff's office. I've already been in contact with almost every chief in Sangamon County and told them my plan is to move that, it's the quote, the sheriff's meeting, but we're going to move it out into their communities, and we will advertise in that community that we're going to be there, say on the first Monday of the month at 9 a.m. We will hold our chiefs meeting with all the chiefs that want to attend, and then at that time we will dismiss the chiefs that want to leave and get back to their jurisdictions, and then we will stay around and have a town hall style meeting where I would ask their chief to stay, their mayor to come, any of their village board members that are there, and listen to the concerns. I know that there's incidents that happen that are caught on videotape, and with our 24-hour news cycle, it has a tendency to get a lot of traction when it may be a very isolated incident. And I want to make sure the public understands that here in Sangamon County, and I think historically, we have not had those type of problems. And I don't want them to get worried about something they see that happened, on one of the coasts or somewhere that is not a threat to them. And more than anything else, I just want to keep that line of communication open also every time we get a chance. And I will be available personally for anybody that wants to come down to the sheriff's office. If they have a concern, they'll be able to call me or stop in and voice that concern.
You said those meetings are every other month?
Yes.
Would you consider moving them to monthly, or is that every other month?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is absolutely one of my plans, is to ask them if we can move them to monthly, because it kind of lost its luster along the way, and we had fewer attending, so that's why we changed it to every other month. And I think that by moving it out of the sheriff's office, it will give these villages more of that feeling of this is about us. And really, it gets their people asking questions and lets them touch base too with people they normally would not see. So I definitely would like to move these to a monthly meeting.
Okay. You mentioned cameras. Do you have some sense of what the current policy is and how well equipped are the officers now with body cameras?
The sheriff's office is not utilizing body cameras right now, and I totally understand why. And I certainly had visited that before my retirement, and understood the cost of the storage of the video. In addition, I've got concerns about our employees' privacy and ensuring that if they were to accidentally leave their camera on and discuss something that has nothing to do with the sheriff's office, that information is protected. And if somebody FOIAs their camera, that's something that certainly could get out there that would not be fair to them. So I'm a huge fan of the body cameras if it's affordable, and we address those concerns of privacy for our employees.
Do you have some sense other jurisdictions have addressed those concerns?
I have not checked into that. I know the city of Springfield is utilizing those, and I've not yet talked to Chief Winslow about those details of privacy.
All right. And this goes back a bit, but as I recall, the last time that you ran and Bard, there seemed at that time there was a question about utilization of military surplus and SWAT wagon and all kind of things. Right. So where is that? That kind of fell off the front page, it seems.
I'm tactically trained. I don't believe the current sheriff is, and I understood the need for that type of equipment, and I addressed it then that this is not something, in the vehicle probably you're talking about is an MRAP.
Right.
And it was a very heavy vehicle that we acquired through the federal surplus system for pennies on the dollar, literally. And we intended to only use that in the vital case of life or death. It wasn't to be used as a patrol vehicle. It wasn't to be used even on a typical SWAT call-out. it was to be used if there was a threat of the public being injured or certainly one of our employees being injured, and specifically our SWAT team. It was designed to be a blocking vehicle, a rescue vehicle, not to be utilized in any other manner. So my plan now is to utilize any program that can provide any equipment that will protect our employees and better protect the citizens. So we will review all options when it comes to equipment like that and technology.
So is that currently in use, or what?
My understanding is they transferred that vehicle and they gave it away.
Okay. Maybe that's why it hadn't been in the news.
Right.
Most likely. One of the other local issues on the ballot this November is the non-binding referendum that asks if Campbell Township residents would be interested in consolidating with the county. And I know that's not necessarily an area you would be interested in, but we are asking county candidates if they would support that measure, the consolidation of the township with the county.
I appreciate that. And again, my job is public safety and fulfilling my statutory responsibilities. So I leave that up to the people that have done the research on it. As a law enforcement official, it's not something I would research. I would be in on meetings and listening to talk about it. And if asked by county board members, how that could impact our agency, that's something I would weigh in on. But I would not want to weigh in on it just as a political question.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that we did not ask about today?
I believe that everything I bring to the table, my full career being at the sheriff's office, the relationships I've built, the experiences I've had at the sheriff's office, my family commitment to this community, my lifelong commitment. I'm a third-generation deputy. This is literally in my blood, and I have a passion for not just law enforcement, but specifically for the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. I withdrew my name as a finalist for U.S. Marshal when this position came open, when the current sheriff decided he wasn't going to seek re-election, because I felt that strongly about it. And some people thought I was crazy for that. My passion, my commitment is to the people of this county. I made my home here. My children have made their homes here. And I fully intend to live my entire life here in Sangamon County. And I want the people to understand that I will be available. You'll see us in the media. You'll see information provided about almost any activity that's happening involving the sheriff's office. So it's accountability, it's collaboration, it's modernization that we're going to bring to the table. I think that's what makes me the best candidate for sheriff. And I'm here today to ask you, this board, for your endorsement, and ask you and all the voters out there for their vote on November the 6th.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. All right. Okay. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.